Okay, well, yes, that was an episode of the television series Babylon 5, that's for sure. Series 1, Episode 4, Infection. Um, okay. What I want to say is that there was a lot of bits and bobs around the central episode that I liked a lot. And I got some questions that need answering. So I've made a few notes here as I've gone through. Maybe you can help me with the comments, or maybe they're all spoilers and you shouldn't tell me anything at all. So, in the opening monologue, why is this the last of the Babylon stations? I'm assuming something massive is going to happen later on in the series. That means the Babylon stations are no longer needed. Two, something really interesting came up in this episode. 500 to 1 against, says the news reporter that comes on the station to interview Commander Sinclair. And yeah, it looks like nobody had faith that the Babylon project would work out at all. And I want to know why that is. Yeah, and also all of this noise about civil unrest and xenophobia and hate groups on Earth targeting aliens. Is this something that's going to come to pass? Is this quite important for stuff that's happening later on? So lots of little tidbits occurring in this that I clearly will be coming up later. What the hell is Ambassador Kosh all about? Like, I still don't know. We had that one scene in an earlier episode where he was sort of flying about outside of his suit, and he just said a lot of sort of very portentous things, but I still don't know a single thing about him. What is the Grey Council? That was brought up in a previous episode, and I have no idea what that's all about, so I'm assuming we're going to find out. And at the end, when they take away this bio weapon, we learn about the Earth Force Bioweapons Division. Are we going there? Is this important to the future? So I'm sort of stacking up all these mysteries as I go. And let's see if any of these get paid off. I'm assuming they all are, but let's find out. But let's talk about infection as a whole. Yeah, that was pretty lousy, I've got to say. If that was a Star Trek episode, I would say that is a mid to poor episode. It felt like a Star Trek episode. You sort of had the I mean, it was fabulous. I started off cheering because Steele from Sapphire and Steel, or the fella from The Man from Uncle, came onto the station. So hurrah for British character actors! And it all kind of went downhill from there. His assistant was infected with this bio weapon and then started turning into a creature feature. So we're kind of doing creature feature of the week. And what was interesting was the makeup started off reasonably impressively. It was just a creature on his thing, and then it was sort of coming out from there. But by the end of the episode, the poor fella, the poor actor, is stuck inside this enormous, cumbersome costume, which they do sort of glisten up and try and make scary, but he looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon. But he can't move in it. He's got no flexibility whatsoever. He's supposed to be this sort of, biological killing machine, but he's sort of lumbering down corridors and things like this. And yeah, so like the whole last 10 minutes where Commander Sinclair is trying to reason with this creature. It, I mean, it wouldn't hold up today, would it? Let's be honest. And I am reliably informed by one of my friends that this is one of the weaker episodes of Babylon 5, and I can probably see why that's the case. Yeah, again, it's far more standalone than I expected it to be. But I think maybe a lot of the serialization comes along later. Signs of Importance, this first season is called. Um, this was directed by a fellow called Richard Compton, who I thought did a reasonable job overall. There was sort of some nice fluidity of the camera work and dynamism, and some of the lighting was quite nice as well. If you want to go and see what Richard Compton can do with a budget, then head over to Series 8 of the X-Files and watch the episode Medusa, which is set down in the New York subway system with Robert Patrick when he was fabulous in the X-Files, and Penny Johnson Jerald there as a scientist, and they're going up against this sort of sentient water. But it's a beautiful, it's like a mini movie, absolutely stunning looking episode. So he's a very good director. I took a look at his IMDb, and the fella's never been out of work. Um, what else came out of this? Dr. Franklin, who I haven't really mentioned at all yet. I think the performance is nice, naturalistic, but there's nothing sort of screaming at me that this is a riveting character to watch. This kind of was his chance in this episode because I imagine this is the Dr. Franklin episode of the season, and it was okay, yeah, watchable, but hardly riveting. What I would like is for JMS to take this race, this Icarans, whatever they're called, these terrible cumbersome creatures, and make them a massive part of the overarching story. I want JMS to have the last laugh. That would be very funny, but let's see what that happens. It was very weird how Vance disappeared for like the entire middle section of the episode. I was like, well, where's Steel gone? Like, so we had all these sort of scenes of them hunting down the creature, and yeah, he just vanished completely. And then he popped up at the end to say, well, we could sell this stuff. Don't hand me in. We could be rich. So he was there at the beginning. He was there at the end. So it was a bit oddly structured as a character story because I figured the Vance Franklin scenes were what this was all about. Yeah, it was a bit confused. It was a bit cheap, and it was a bit embarrassing. So I would say this is by far the weakest episode so far. Um, all the periphery stuff sort of had my spidey senses tingling. So it's not a write-off. Strikes me that Babylon 5 is a sort of show where even when it sort of puts out a dud, there's stuff you've got to pay attention to. You've got to watch the duds, for the whole story to make sense. So yeah, if I was kind, I'd say 4 out of 10. If I was unkind, I'd say 3. It was below average. Let's leave it there and hope that episode 5 is going to offer us something a bit more exciting. Let's find out. Now you are talking. Babylon 5, Series 1, Episode 5, The Parliament of Dreams. I thought that was pretty wonderful, actually. In fact, that's sort of like the blueprint of Babylon 5 episodes that I would like to see going forward. In that there was lots going on, but there was an overall theme of celebrating religion. I mean, I don't want Babylon 5 to be about celebrating religion every week, but there was an overall theme, but every character was involved in some way and got a great moment. Um, but the central storyline of this that I just loved was Jakar getting the message at the start, telling him that he's dead and an assassin is coming after him. One of his political rivals is dying. And in a wonderful scene where he goes, I'm dying, and Jakar just goes, "What about time?" Um, he sent an assassin to the station to finish him off. And by pure coincidence, at the same time, he has a new aide on the station, Natoff, who he thinks might be responsible, and he keeps getting these death flowers left in his bed, so he hires an assassin to try and protect him from this fucking great lumbering bit of latex. And in the most funniest scene, I was roaring with laughter. He comes in and she just goes in there in the other room. He goes in, the assassin's there sitting up. And he falls over dead, and the death flowers there next to him. Oh, hilarious stuff. Actually, it it's a very important point about Babylon 5, actually, that I want to make. And that is how JMS or whoever's script writing, they imbue the alien characters with so much personality and eccentricity and humor. That's the important thing, humor, which makes them so likable. Um, and then in contrast, the human characters are so serious and not boring, but in comparison, pretty boring. Because they're not we're having a great time, like these alien characters are, or rather the actors playing the alien characters. And I have to say, Andreas Katsoulas and Peter Jurasik playing Londo and Jakar, like this is no slight on the other actors, but they are leagues ahead. Absolutely. What brilliant bits of casting. This is Katsulas's like big first big episode that he got to do. And oh man, I could just watch him till the cows come home. He's so funny, and he's tiptoeing around the station looking around the doors for the assassin to come after him. But I thought the woman playing his aide was really great as well. And by the end, obviously, she's not the assassin. She saves him. The assassin actually turns out to be Kira Nerese's father from Deep Space Nine, which is quite funny. And in fact, the actress playing the Toph had been in Star Trek as well. I'm seeing there's a lot of cross pollination with writers because I've just seen that DC Fontana's writing a script later in the season, and directors Mike Vajar and Jesus Triviano direct episodes of both franchises as well. So I think like this whole rivalry between the two, what is the point? There's the same people working on the same shows. Um, yeah, really, just terrific. That whole Jakar plot was terrific, engaging, funny. Yeah, I mean, more please, just more like that. I loved it. Um, I loved all the religious ceremonies as well. We got to learn a bit about each of the cultures. You got the Centauri ceremony, which is bawdy and alcohol fueled, and London's on the table. Um, Kissing all the god statues that are there because he's so utterly pissed, and he's telling Garibaldi and Delenn how cute they are. Very, very funny. And then you get the Mimbari ceremony, which is very serious, of course. Everyone gets a tiny little red berry, and it's all about, the mythology and all of that. It's a bit lecturing and poetic. And then finally, you get the Earth ceremony in the final scene where an extraordinary amount of extras are lined up, and it's all different faiths from Earth. I was really moved by that. Like, yeah, I have big opinions about certain faith groups and, religion, which I will keep to myself. But just to be able to see the scope of one representative from each religion just lined up in a row like that. I thought that was really quite powerful. Yeah, very moving. What else? I'm making notes as I go now because I don't want to miss anything. Oh boy, Julie Nixon's here as Commander Sinclair's love interest, and please, these were the weakest scenes by far. Like it was like a dreadful daytime soap opera. She was getting lines like, "Don't send me away. Don't make me feel like a fool. Don't touch me unless you mean it." And all this with this very cod sort of daytime soap music playing, the sort of romantic music. Awful. I have heard hints and whispers about JMS's dialogue on occasion, and yeah, this was one occasion where perhaps it didn't quite work, which is weird because I think he wrote the episode where Londo had the love interest a couple of episodes back, and that worked really, really well. There we go. Did I notice like some Roman and Egyptian influences in that Centauri feast that we watched? I'll be interested to see when we go to the planet and see what visual influences there are there. Oh, and Bill Mummy as Lanier turns up in this. I really love Bill Mummy as an actor. He's in one Star Trek episode, CGR 558, and he's brilliant in that. I have heard good things about him in Babylon 5, and he doesn't really get too much to do here apart from be very sweet and and inoffensive. But I think we might see some good things to come from him. Yeah, really fantastically good episode, I thought. Um just mostly just very funny in places. And I think when Babylon 5 leans on its humor, it's very watchable indeed. Um yeah, this has taken the nasty taste out of my mouth after Parliament of Dreams. So I'm really excited for episode 6. Let's see what happens next. Okay, so I've just watched series 1, episode 6, Mind War. Uh, Mixed feelings about this one, I think. I liked So I like the fact that Talia Winter's got a stronger role, and I loved Walter Koenig coming on as Bester. Um, he has a very subtly menacing way about him, and I hope he gets lots more to do because it's a million miles away from Chekhov in Star Trek. Yeah, he's a great character. And it's nice to explore the cycle a little bit more. I'd like to go there though, rather than them coming to us. I realised the show's called Babylon 5, so we have to do a lot of the stuff here. I loved his clipped English upper class underling as well, who was trying to be incredibly loud and threatening, and Walter Koenig's just there next to her, being genuinely threatening and terrifying. So that was all good stuff. But the story that played out of the fella who was being experimented on to become a telekinetic assassin, it played out in quite a routine way. We're going to look into your mind and see if he's here. No, you've had no contact with him. The very next scene, he has contact with her. She hides him away. Uh, the Earth, the people on Babylon 5 get involved. Blah blah blah. They manage to get him away, and not get him away, ascend him to a higher being. It was all right. It didn't. It just wasn't especially gripping. And we're back focusing on the non-alien characters, so it's all a bit worthy rather than enjoyable. But it's continuing to put the pieces in place. I'll say that much. What I did really like was, what's the lady's name? Sakai. So Sinclair's partner goes off into a region of space, and she's warned off by Jakar, don't go into that region of space. There's things we don't know about there. It's dangerous. And she thinks that they just want that region of space. So she goes anyway. And this enormous ship passes her by. Um, and I'm wondering if that's setting up something for the future, that some great threat is going to come from that area of space. I loved at the end when she asked Jakar, like, what the hell was it? Do you know? And he picks up a little ant and he goes, look at this ant on me here. And then puts the ant down and goes, so I've just picked up that ant. If that ant then said to another ant, well, what the hell was that? How would he explain it? I.e., we are the ants, and those things in Sigma 957 are so vast. How could we possibly explain it to each other? So it sounds like something's brewing up over there. So that was, it was mostly functional, but it seemed to be setting up something. Big issue with this week though was the special effects. Oh boy, I'm gonna get roasted alive for this. But my God, this all looks so cheap. Now, I hear the CGI just come on with Babylon 5, and it shouldn't be a problem for me because, look, I'm a Doctor Who fan, so special effects don't usually bother me. But early CGI, it's so cartoony, and there was lots of what was it, Mindquake that we had. So we had all the sort of the CGI was sort of melting and absorbing, and it looked so cartoony. And there was lots of electric effects, back when electricity looked very, very cheap. And it shouldn't take me out of the story, but it kind of did on this occasion. And I've been kind about the effects so far, so don't be too mean to me, all right? But this time round, yeah, it wasn't there. And sometimes I admire the ambition, but sometimes if you don't have the resources to do it, sometimes just don't do it. Take a step back and do what you can do. They've got brilliant actors here. They've got a good setting. You know, you don't always have to lean on effects. And sometimes you can just do it with good lighting, and things like that. So maybe it would be nicer if they tried a bit more of that. But let's see how these things come on. They're sort of feeling their way in at this point, and it was a little bit distracting though. Yeah, I came out of this a little nonplussed, if I'm honest, especially after last week's, which was so much fun, the last episode. Um, but again, it does feel like jigsaw puzzle pieces. We're sort of doing the edges at the moment. And we've had the episode with the cycle, we've had the episode with Char, we've had the episode with Londo. Political things are brewing. It's all sort of starting to coalesce. But yeah, this was okay, pretty average, but setting things up for the future. Anyway, so sorry I can't be a bit more pleasant this time around. Let's go and see what episode 7 has to do. One thing I will say is I am really enjoying the journey so far. And I think I'm really gonna like this show. Like, there's some parts of it I really love already. There's other bits I'm a bit shaky on, but I'm hoping I will grow to love. But this sort of long form storytelling I usually adore. And I think in its more thoughtful moments and its better character moments, and especially with its sense of humor, it's really great telly. So yeah, let's see what episode 7 has to offer.